SportsBit is powered by BetOnline, driving the opening odds market since 2001. Visit sportsbookreview.com to learn more about BetOnline and its A+ rated platform in the link below.
Yes, welcome into SportsBit. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy Weekend Preview Edition. Game 3 of the World Series. We'll get to Carolina, Tampa Bay, loser leaves town. Dallas and Washington in the Sunday night game, Pittsburgh at Detroit, and the play of the day. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Bad beat, Oregon State money line as high as 9-1. Just running out the clock, they fumble. Stanford wins 15-14. And Dolphins-Ravens under 38. The Dolphins don't score, and it goes over the total. 2 pick sixes. Dolphins couldn't do anything on offense. Offensive line was horrible, and they couldn't run the ball against the worst run defense in the league. And Flacco goes out with the concussion. 40-0 Baltimore.
Yeah, certainly from a betting perspective, the story last night was the bad beat on the under. If you had under 38, 491 combined yards for the two teams. One of the two teams gets shut out. And yet, Matt Moore, wasn't one pick six. It was the second pick six that sent the game over the total. That's brutal, Paulie. That is flat out brutal if you had the under in that ballgame. And all those guys who were, Matt Moore, who needs Jay Cutler? That's Matt Moore. You saw him last night. That's why he's been an NFL backup for his entire career.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, one game sample, right. We'll forget about the guy who took him to the playoffs last year. Let's go with the guy, as the Dolphins are last in points per game and 31st in total offense. That's the solution. Let's not blame Cutler at all. By the way, he's the worst quarterback in NFL history against the spread. Cutler's 58-83. Our stats guy must be the only guy who thinks Cutler's any good, other than Adam Gase as well. Lunacy. Cutler apparently will start in the next game Sunday night. That was ugly. Get used to it. Miami's on prime time the next 2 weeks, if you can believe it. Sunday night and Monday night. Bad for the books. No Bryce Love. A lot of money came in on Oregon State. Also, you had to adjust. This guy's averaging 10 yards per carry in a Power 5 league. So no Bryce Love. Oregon State, Stanford went from 23 to 18. The total from 59 to 56. As I mentioned earlier, Stanford, no business winning the game, 15-14.
Yeah, when you don't score enough points in order to cover the amount that you're being asked to lay, even if you get a shutout, that's not a right side. And the books took a beating on this game. Wise guys all over Oregon State. Once Bryce Love was announced out, a 5-point move, a significant move when you talk about the total downwards. And all that money cashes for the bettors with Stanford's 1-point win in Corvallis.
Big move on Toledo, 23.5 to 27.5. Can't make the number high enough to keep away anti-Ball State money. Last 4 games, Ball State has lost 58-17, 56-9, 31-3, and 55-3. Yikes.
Yeah, when you're losing against the spread by 111 points over a 4-game span, that's downright ugly, Paulie. And when you see a situation where, it's a Thursday night game. People aren't paying attention to the MAC at the same level on a Saturday as they are when it's a Thursday night game. Thursday night, all of a sudden, boom, here come the Rockets money, and it didn't stop. 23.5, 24.5, 25.5, 26.5, 27.5. There were 28s out there. Doesn't matter. Books couldn't make a line high enough, and they're going to continue to struggle to make a line high enough to attract anything resembling two-way action on a Ball State Cardinals game. Logan Whiteside with the huge game for the Rockets. He averaged 15.7 yards per pass attempt and threw for 3 touchdowns in the blowout win.
2 more bad for the books. Georgia State +2 went off the favorite at home. They won. Total also 48.5 to 51.5. That stayed under. That was a bad bet. Dallas from 9 down to 7.5, and the under from 196 to 194.5. They thought Memphis had the revenge. Well, so they may have had the revenge, but they knew what they were doing here, as they don't trust Memphis. Memphis wins, but it was 96-91, dog and under.
Yeah, and a home-and-home series there with Dallas having notched their first victory over the Grizzlies the previous night, second night of back-to-backs on the highway. Markets were not, or second night of back-to-backs, even in the revenge situation, the markets weren't excited about laying a big price with the Grizzlies to win by margin home. And Memphis, wire-to-wire job, but building margins with the Grizzlies, not going to be easy.
Explain this one. Another bad bet. 6-point move on the Portland Clipper total. Went from 211 to 217. 104-103 final. Blake hits a 3 at the buzzer.
I cannot speak for every line move in terms of explaining. I don't understand what they were seeing. The Clippers and the Blazers are number 1 and number 2 in the NBA in points per 100 possessions. So I have no idea what the markets were seeing scheming this game up. And it wasn't a little move. It was a 6-point steam move to the over. Clippers, Blazers over, steam move. Yeah, that was a wrong side as the game stayed under the total despite Blake Griffin's heroics at the buzzer.
Pros versus Joes. Pros 19-11 year to date. Vikings, Panthers, Raiders, and Bengals taking money. The Vikings, Kaiser's going to be the starter again Sunday in London, and the Browns are on a 5-17 ATS run. That's why you're getting some Minnesota money. Panthers, Raiders, Bengals as well. The Bengals, the Colts are a horror show, and that's been a big change from the look-ahead line after the Colts were embarrassed at home by Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Oakland move off the 3 down to the 2.5. That's certainly a significant move as the Raiders. And for me, the Raiders are a really hard team this week. I'm not sure where to power rate Oakland. I'm going to leave that game alone. But the wise guys seem to think that Oakland may be power rated a notch or two too low right now, and Buffalo too high. Cincinnati, it's not like the public is interested in laying doubles with Cincinnati, but the defensive injuries for Indy and the spot for the Bengals certainly has the wise guys looking at the Cincinnati side of that equation. And you talked about the Minnesota money. Not often that you see the sharp money come in on a road, not a road team, because a neutral site in London, but on a away from home, a team laying more than a touchdown. And yet there's been steady Vikings money all week. Maybe this graphic can tell us why there's been so much Minnesota money. Look at what Mike Zimmer and company are doing when it comes to prepping for London. Players have been instructed on limiting caffeine consumption, adjusting sleep schedules. They've been given special glasses to look at their smartphones while minimizing their light take. They're going to sleep on the flight over and practice it for 5 hours when they land. They're supposed to have heavy meals, chicken Alfredo for dinner that's going to help with sleeping earlier. Zimmer, quote, "We've had sleep people come talk to us. We're getting the whole gamut. I was looking into all the scientific things for this. We're going to try something a little different from most of the other teams. I'll either look smart or I'll look dumb." But Minnesota certainly taking the advanced analytics when it's coming to travel very, very seriously.
Joe's going anti-Denver Monday night. They want the Chiefs at home. I don't know what they're doing here with Atlanta, who's lost 3 in a row and scored 7 points in the last 6 quarters. Eagles laying doubles, which going back over 10-plus years, winless teams catching double digits, been terrific ATS. Philly laying 13.5 in some spots, and the Cowboys now 2 at Washington.
Yeah, and teams off a double-digit loss like San Francisco last week, catching double digits the next week, have been very, very good. A long-term trend of better than 70% against the point spread. So, the Joes at 10-21 year to date, they're going against that long-term positive expectation sample there with their support for the Philadelphia Eagles.
World Series Game 3. Series shifts to Houston, and we'll talk about Mattress Man affecting the markets in Las Vegas and Carolina and Tampa Bay. SportsBit, betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Hey guys, thanks for stopping by Sportsbook Review, YouTube's largest sports betting channel. Every day we're here giving you the most up-to-date news and info, all to help you make the best bet. On top of that, guys, it's free. So look, do us a favor, click the like button, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment or a question. Our goal here is to make sure that everyone becomes a smarter, better. So join the SPR Army today and start winning with Sportsbook Review.
Back on SportsBit, betting insight today, big game breakdown. Always sponsored and powered by BetOnline. Exceptional customer service, strong promotions, every type of wager we are looking for. And for updated lines and picks, SBR odds and SBRpicks.com. Game 3 tonight, 5 o'clock Pacific on Fox. Astros $1.38.5. The total as high as $145 as we tape in Las Vegas because of Mattress Man. He owns a furniture store in Houston, and he said if they win it all, you get it all. If you spend at least $3,000, you get a free mattress. So he bet $1 million on combined on Game 6 and Game 7 of the ALCS. He had $300,000 on the Astros to win the series just at one property. This guy's dancing all over town betting the Astros here. I hope the guy was insured. You'd hope. But he's betting the Astros here, trying to hedge and make sure he doesn't give all the free mattresses out.
And that's such a good story, Paulie, because it speaks about the inefficiencies of the betting marketplace. All right. Let's say you want to buy, you want to buy Microsoft stock. All right. There's not going to be one guy that's running around over town affecting the price of that Microsoft stock because the market is so big. But in sports betting, the markets are smaller. So one person who has a vested interest can absolutely affect the point spread all over town, all over the globe. And here's a situation where that's exactly the case. Houston money, and no shortage of it, with someone that's trying to hedge his bets a little bit because he's got to give a whole lot of matches away should the Astros win the World Series.
So Hill's better at home than he is on the road, and Darvish has been fantastic in Minute Maid. That's why he's going in Game 3 and Game 7 if necessary. 4-1 with a 2.16 in Minute Maid Park. Good overall numbers against the Astros, and he's been terrific, though. 4-0 with a 0.88 ERA his last 5 starts, 30 strikeouts, 14 hits, and only 2 walks. He's been terrific. But the question is, what happens if they have to go to the pen early because Rich Hill only gave them 4 innings, and I think it was a good move by Roberts, but they only got 4 innings out of Rich Hill in Game 2.
Yeah, I mean, there's the good news for LA is that they have A, a really good bullpen, and B, a day off yesterday. So when you talk about the bullpen concerns here, I'm much more concerned about the Astros bullpen than the Dodgers bullpen moving forward, even though the Dodgers bullpen cost them game number 2. Remember, Roberts used every key arm that he had. By the time he went to extra innings, he basically didn't have anybody left. But those Darvish numbers at Minute Maid stand out. You know, the 4-1, 2.16 career. He pitched here once this season, 7 innings of 1-hit ball against the Astros. Current Astros have a 590 OPS against him in their careers off a decent sample size, I think 163 or 164 at-bats. Game 2, Astros starters against Darvish, hitting a combined 202, 3 home runs, 39 strikeouts. So we're talking about an ace-level hurler who's in ace-level form right now, dominating everybody over the course of his last 5 starts. And he's dominated the lineup that he's supposed to face tonight. I know they have the better of the 2 bullpens behind them, even though it was the Dodgers bullpen that cost them the game in game number 2.
See what we get on McCullers, who other than the playoff start at Yankee Stadium, when he left with a 4-1 lead and the bullpen imploded, he hadn't gone beyond 6 innings since going on the DL in early June, but the issues may have got worse in game 2. Giles was lit up, so was Davinsky. If you look, they had 38 of the team's 45 saves in the regular season. In the 2017 postseason with this graphic, Giles' ERA is 8 and change. So is Davinsky. And you're only talking 7 2/3 and 5 1/3 as well. 8.5's the total. How do you see game 3? Any opinion?
I'm not interested in betting the unders in this contest. Look, when you look at these lineups, they are loaded, absolutely loaded. When you look at the Astros bullpen in particular, there's vulnerability there. I don't think there's as much vulnerability at all for the Dodgers pen moving forward. We're talking about a team that just set a postseason record for scoreless innings. And all right, they cracked in 1 game. Do we expect to see more of that? If you're asking me which bullpen do I trust more moving forward, that would be the Dodgers. And if I don't trust the Astros bullpen, and I shouldn't, given the graphic you just showed with their relievers, ERA here in the postseason, if I don't trust that bullpen, I cannot get to the window betting an under in this contest.
Game number 2, live odds bet online. Carolina at Tampa Bay. Buccaneers are 2, 46 the total. Carolina offense has struggled and been inconsistent. Can't run the ball. Cam Newton, fed up, walked out of the presser with the media after asked about the lack of big plays. And Benjamin said, I think everyone's frustrated. The whole offense was frustrated because the defense was giving us 3 and outs and we didn't put up points. Trubisky completes 4 passes. What, they have 4 first downs? And you lose the game 17-3. OC Mike Shula, we're not as far off as we think. It feels like we are, but we all feel terrible. And the problem starts with the running game, 23rd yards per game, 29th yards per rush. Can't get anything going on the ground.
But the beauty about those running stats, they're misleading to the high side. Carolina's running game. Okay, you're talking about 97 yards per game, number 23, and 3.4 yards per rush. That ranks number 29. But both of those numbers get a boost from Cam Newton. Cam Newton's run for 211 yards at 4.3 yards per carry. Look at the actual running backs in this lineup. Jonathan Stewart, 3 yards a carry. Christian McCaffrey, the second coming, 2.5 yards per carry. Fozzie Whitaker, 2.5 yards per carry. They are getting next to nothing from their running backs. And we have to ask ourselves, the quote from Cam Newton, of course, about the lack of downfield passing. I can't answer that question. I'm executing the play that's given to me. Is there a disconnect here between Newton and Mike Shula? Is there a disconnect here between Cam and the rest of the Panthers offense? Or is this just one of these situations where there may be a crisis of confidence, but all it takes is one weak defensive foe, one offensive explosion, and all of this is behind Carolina? That certainly is the potential, but if it doesn't, Tampa's the type of team you're supposed to be able to move the football against. If Carolina can't move the football again this week, boy, things could get ugly for this squad in a big divisional matchup.
Yep, could be the old loser leaves town, because Tampa Bay has New Orleans on the road next week. Their defense was so good at the end of last year when they closed 6-2 straight up. The defense, a big reason why. They only have 7 sacks and 4 interceptions, and they're 30th in the league in yards per game, last in sacks and sack percentage. McCoy, quote, "I play what they call. I don't have a say in what we run. I kind of go with it. I'm a team guy, so I do what they ask. Do I feel like I could have been more effective in a different way? Yes, but I'm a team guy. It's not about Gerald. Whatever the coach calls is what I'm going to run." Tough loss on the road against Buffalo. Tough loss on that Thursday night game at home against New England. See how they bounce back at home again. I don't know. Not a lot to like. Although Winston did play well in the loss against Buffalo before they had the key turnover late.
He did, but he's also not practicing. The team is doing it to rest his shoulder. He didn't practice till Friday last week. And I worry about QBs that don't get their normal reps going up against some playmaking defenses like what Carolina brings to the table. Though Winston, as you mentioned, made plays all game against Buffalo last week and showed no ill effects from the bum shoulder. But another concern for Tampa, despite the defensive schemes and despite the fact that, Gerald McCoy is having the same kind of quotes that we're hearing out of Cam Newton in terms of, well, I'm just trying to execute the play that was called, not throwing his coordinator under the bus. But they've got cluster injuries in the secondary. Cornerback Robert McClain in concussion protocol. The other starter, Brent Grimes, hasn't been able to practice all week with the shoulder injury. They added Jai Oliote to the roster Wednesday, and he may end up getting playing time on Sunday. That's a concern for me when it comes to that Tampa Bay secondary.
We roll on with the Cowboys and Redskins and the Sunday night game, Steelers at Detroit, and the play of the day on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBet, Pauly and Teddy, Betting Insight today. Cowboys and Redskins, only 2 late games Sunday. Come on, NFL. Here's one of them. 125 Pacific. Cowboys are 1.5 on the road, 49 the total. The road team in this matchup, 5-1 on a 5-1 run. ATS. Cowboys swept them last year. Both were close, 27-23 and 31-26 at home. Injuries coming at the worst possible time for the Skins. It's a short week. Mash unit on the O-line. Ton of injuries in the Monday night loss to the Eagles. And so bad that Wednesday they didn't even practice. They just had a walkthrough.
Yeah. It's almost like Jay Gruden is taking a show of hands to see who can play on the offensive line. Look at that picture right there, because they have some serious issues on the offensive line. They finished Monday night's game with the only healthy lineman on the roster. Every one of them was on the field in that contest. 5-time Pro Bowler Trent Williams hasn't been practicing for the last 3 weeks. He's been trying to save energy to play on game day. His knee's going to require surgery. They were hoping to get him to gut it through the season. Well, they heard it again on Monday. This is what he said, quote, "I can't really perform like I want to or how I feel I'm capable of. So I'm not sure if I'm hurting the team by trying to be out there or doing myself any justice or doing my team any justice. I just have to go back and evaluate and take the next step." And it's not just the starters. I mean, the backup, Ty Neshke, he's been out. He's not going to be back for another week. Right tackle Morgan Moses hasn't been able to practice. He's got injuries on both ankles. The guard, elite guard, Brandon Sheriff, he's got a strained MCL, I should say. He may try to play with a brace, but this is not a Redskins offensive line that's primed to come out and dominate. And, of course, they're going against a pretty good pass rush with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, Lawrence is number 2 in the NFL in sacks. Irving's got one of the 2 games back. They're 7th in sack percentage, and the O-line had underachieved early on, but they got Elliott going last week in the blowout win, 147 yards and 3 touchdowns. They didn't sack Dak. Tyron Smith got a chance to get healthy during the bye week. Travis Frederick on Tyron Smith. People in every position in the NFL have to play through things. There's a lot of stuff you don't necessarily hear about on the outside. He's an impressive specimen because of his work ethic and the way he tries to approach everything. You know, he wants to be out there practicing all the time, and sometimes you're not allowed to do that. We'll get back to this game coming up with play of the day. Sunday night, Steelers and Lions. Some Lions money lately. Steelers are 2.5 on the road, -120 at BetOnline, 45.5 the total. Detroit comes out of the bye. Stafford gets a chance to get healthy, but off the worst game of his career against Jacksonville, Roethlisberger struggled. They got Bell involved and a heavy dose of Bell the last 2 games. 32 rushes against Kansas City and 35 against Cincinnati. Bell had 73 touches on the 137 snaps.
Yeah, and look at the quote from Mike Tomlin. This is exactly what Pittsburgh needs to do right now. Tomlin, this is what we've come to expect from him. He's rolling well. But when he does it, it's the product of a lot of things. The guys up front, obviously. I thought the wide-out perimeter blocking was excellent. It's an 11-man job to run the football for us. So we're talking about a guy that, as you mentioned, got snaps on 73, or touches on 73 of 137 snaps over the last 2 games. And lo and behold, Big Ben has been better over the last 2 weeks with a steady running game to make things easier for him. But he's still not accurate down the field. That's a huge. Big Ben, for much of his career, was as accurate a downfield passer as you'll find in the NFL. That has not been the case in 2017, and it's definitely holding that Pittsburgh Steelers offense back. The defense, however, I mean, they're up to number 2 on the Football Outsiders ratings, despite the fact they've only had the starting 11 on the field the last 3 games. They're healthy right now. So it is a healthy Steelers defense, all 11 starters in. They held the Bengals to 19 yards on 21 plays in the second half last week. 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 8 of the yards came on a run by Andy Dalton that could have been the 5th sack of that contest. It was absolute domination from Pittsburgh's defense in the second half of that ballgame. And that's what the Steelers are capable of doing right now when they bring their A game on the defensive side of the football.
Lions defense has turned it around, led by Davis, the linebacker, who's, even with missing time with injuries, he's number 4 on the team in snaps. But we'll see if they can hold up against Bell. Haloti Ngata out for the year. Tough assignment here. What do you think, Teddy, about the Lions offense and defense?
Well, when you look at the graphic right here, you know, Football Outsider, this is a defense last year, 19th against the run, dead last against the pass, dead last overall. So you expect some incremental improvement. All right, they drafted a linebacker. You know, they put some free agent dollars in the defense. This hasn't been incremental improvement. This has been dramatic improvement. Defense, last year, 19th against the run. This year, number 8. Last year, dead last against the pass. This year, number 9. Total defense from 32 in the NFL to number 7. That's a decent sample size. We're talking about the first half of the campaign. There's no question this defense has been way better than folks projected. However, offensively, they're not trending the same way. Last year, you know, Football Outsiders, again, the advanced metric stats, they were number 13 in the NFL in 2016. This year, they're number 23 in terms of their passing game. And the big issue, like so many teams, protecting the quarterback. Matthew Stafford's sack percentage. The career numbers, last year a little bit higher. This year, through the roof at 9.3%. Some issue for the offensive line. Some issue maybe the receivers not getting open so Stafford can get the ball out early. Here are the quotes. Jim Caldwell. There's not one area on our football team that you can separate one from the other and say, hey, this one's doing well. So you certainly cannot just put your finger on one particular issue and say, hey, this is what it is. So, you know, Caldwell doesn't seem to have a clear idea. Matthew Stafford, I could be better in getting the ball out a little bit quicker and helping everybody out. That's probably true. Lions injury report, not pretty, even coming out of the bye, although they did get a pleasant surprise. Golden Tate back on the practice field. He was expected to miss extra time.
I got you. Yes. Money time, play of the day. Back to Dallas and Washington. What do you want to do?
Let's take a look at the road chalk here. Yeah, we're going to take the square side of this equation. Absolutely. Why? Because the Redskins are an injury-riddled mess. When a team cancels practice on Wednesday in the middle of an NFL season, that's a huge issue. It's a giant red flag, and it's bet against all the way. Dallas getting healthier on the offensive line. Washington's offensive line is in shambles. Let's take a look at getting number 269, the Dallas Cowboys -1.5. Look for the road win and continued dominance in the series. Take Dallas minus the points. That's our play of the day.
All right, very good. We're back Monday to recap everything, and it's a great college football card with 5 monster games in the afternoon. We'll run through everything, college and pro. We'll talk to you on Monday on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com. Good luck out there.